Maintaining relevance in the music industry is hard, and coming back with chart topper after chart topper is only reserved for a select few icons. In this video, we'll look at 10 artists with the longest gap between #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. Britney Spears. Britney Spears made one of the most iconic debuts in music history when Baby One More Time topped the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1999. The song sold over 10 million copies worldwide and cemented her as the princess of pop. However, despite her dominance throughout the early 2000s, Britney surprisingly didn't score another Hot 100 #1 for nearly a decade. The early to mid-2000s saw her music continue to perform well, with hits like Oops, I Did It Again, Toxic, and Gimme More becoming huge hits. However, none of them managed to reach #1 for one reason or another. Following her highly publicized personal struggles in 2007, many questioned if she could ever reclaim her pop throne. Then came Womanizer in 2008. The electropop anthem was an instant smash, debuting at number 96 and skyrocketing to #1 within a week. This marked one of the biggest jumps to the top in Billboard history at the time, proving that Britney was still a force to be reckoned with. Her career post-Womanizer remained a roller coaster, but she managed to score 4 more #1 hits after that. While she never fully recaptured the dominance of her early years, she solidified her status as a pop icon in the early 2010s. Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake's transition from NSYNC to a solo superstar was smooth, but he faced challenges when it came to maintaining his chart dominance. His first #1 hit as a solo artist was Sexy Back, and he followed it up with 2 #1 hits back to back. But there was a huge gap between his last hit from that era, What Goes Around Comes Around, to his next chart topper. The song earned him a Grammy Award and spent a week at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 back in 2006. However, despite his continued popularity, Timberlake wouldn't see another #1 hit for a full decade. His 2013 comeback with the 2020 Experience produced some huge songs like Mirrors and Suit and Tie, but none of them managed to claim the top spot, even though they peaked in the top 10. JT returned in full force with Can't Stop the Feeling, a feel-good disco pop anthem recorded for the animated movie Trolls. The song was a commercial monster, debuting at #1 and becoming one of the biggest songs of the year. Though the song brought him back, his next album, Man of the Woods in 2018, was met with mixed reviews and underwhelming sales. Justin has been in and out of the music industry, as he has long breaks between albums to focus on his acting, and the 10-year gap between his 2 #1 hits is one of the biggest ever. Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus is no stranger to reinvention. She first hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with Wrecking Ball in 2013, a song that came with her controversial Bangers era. It was a massive success, driven by social media engagement and its unforgettable music video. However, after that era ended, Miley faced a rocky road back to pop superstardom. Her follow-up projects, including Dead Pets in 2015 and Younger Now in 2017, failed to make a major impact on the charts. While Plastic Hearts in 2020 was critically acclaimed and spawned hits like Midnight Sky, it still didn't bring Miley back to #1. Despite consistently releasing music, she found herself in a strange position, always relevant but unable to reclaim her chart-topping dominance. That finally changed in 2023 with Flowers, the lead single from her album Endless Summer Vacation. The song exploded, debuting at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and staying there for 8 weeks. It became Miley's biggest hit ever. It marked the end of a 10-year gap since her last #1, proving that she still had the power to completely take over pop music. Those two are still the only #1 hits of her career. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey is one of the most legendary artists in music history, scoring a record-breaking 19 #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. Close to 2 decades into her career, Touch My Body from her 2008 album E=MC² became her 18th #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. Remarkably, over a decade later, her 1994 holiday classic All I Want for Christmas Is You achieved the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 in 2019, 25 years after its original release. The 11-year gap between Touch My Body and the chart-topping resurgence of her Christmas hit became one of the biggest in pop history. The re-emergence of All I Want for Christmas Is You at the top of the charts was fueled by the rise of streaming platforms. The song is a timeless classic that transcends generations. It always comes back to the top of the charts during the holiday season every single year, and it has now spent 18 weeks at the top. Beyonce. Beyonce is one of the biggest names in music, but even she had to wait a shocking 14 years between her #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100 as a solo artist. Back in 2008, Single Ladies Put a Ring on It was an unstoppable force. The song topped the charts for 4 weeks, becoming an era-defining moment. However, despite her albums always selling well, Beyonce couldn't score another solo Hot 100 #1 for over a decade. This wasn't due to a lack of success. Far from it. She continued to dominate pop culture with her self-titled album in 2013 and Lemonade in 2016, both of which changed music forever. However, singles like Halo, Drunk in Love, and Formation never quite reached #1. Even her collaboration with Ed Sheeran on Perfect in 2017 was technically his song, meaning her solo #1 drought continued. She was also featured on the remix to Megan Thee Stallion's Savage, which hit #1 in 2020. That all changed in 2022 with Break My Soul, released as a lead single from Renaissance. The song was a huge pivot in her sound, as it was a house-influenced banger. The song climbed to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, marking Beyonce's return to the top spot as a solo artist after an incredible 14-year gap. This moment proved that in an ever-changing music industry, Beyonce remains a dominant force, capable of reinventing herself time and time again. Elton John. Elton John is one of the most legendary artists in music history, but despite his massive success, he went 16 years without a #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Don't Go Breaking My Heart, his duet with Kiki D, dominated the summer of 1976. It was a departure from his usual piano-driven ballads, and it became a big hit, staying at #1 for 4 weeks. However, after that, despite his continued popularity, he struggled to reach the summit of the Hot 100 again, even though he was featured on That's What Friends Are For by Dionne Warwick, which was a chart topper in 1985. Fast forward to 1992, and Elton John finally reclaimed the top spot as a lead artist with Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. The song was originally released in 1974 and only peaked at #2. However, a live duet version with George Michael, recorded in 1991, became a surprise smash, going straight to #1 in early 1992. This marked one of the longest gaps between #1 hits at the time, proving that legends can always make a comeback. Decades later, he made a shocking return in 2021 thanks to Cold Heart, his unexpected collaboration with Dua Lipa. Even though that song didn't reach #1, Elton's music remains timeless across generations. Kanye West. In 2007, Kanye released Stronger, a single from his third studio album Graduation. The song, which samples Daft Punk's Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, became a commercial success, reaching #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Over the years, Kanye struggled to hit #1 as a lead artist, even though he was featured on Katy Perry's #1 hit E.T. back in 2010. Fast forward to 2024, he finally got back to the top of the charts when he collaborated with Ty Dolla $ign for Carnival, a song which featured Rich the Kid and Playboi Carti, ascending to #1 in his 4th week. The 17-year gap between Stronger and Carnival is one of the biggest in music history. The journey between these two #1 hits wasn't without its challenges. Kanye repeatedly got himself into a lot of controversies, but he somehow managed to come back to the top of the charts. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin, known as the Queen of Soul, dominated the music industry with her legendary catalog. Her first #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 came in 1967, a defining anthem for both soul music and the civil rights movement. The song, originally recorded by Otis Redding, became Aretha's signature track, earning her 2 Grammy Awards. It was more than just a hit, it became a generational classic. Despite continued success throughout the 1970s and early 80s, she struggled to reach the summit of the Hot 100. That changed in 1987 when she collaborated with George Michael on I Knew You Were Waiting For Me, a duet that topped the Billboard Hot 100, marking her comeback. With a 20-year gap between her first and second #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100, Aretha cemented her status as an icon. Cher. Cher is no stranger to reinvention. From the 1960s folk pop scene to disco, rock, and electronic dance music, she has successfully adapted to every musical era. However, there was a 25-year gap between her 1974 #1 hit Dark Lady and her iconic 1999 comeback smash Believe. During that quarter century, Cher remained an icon, but struggled on the charts until she delivered one of the most influential pop songs of all time. After Dark Lady in 1974, she continued releasing music, but her success was inconsistent. While she scored hits like If I Could Turn Back Time in 1989, which peaked in the top 3, she failed to reach #1 for years. She also shifted her focus to acting, winning an Academy Award for Moonstruck. By the mid-90s, many assumed her music career was winding down until she came back with Believe, a dance pop anthem that revolutionized music. Released in 1998, it was unlike anything else at the time. Its futuristic production and the use of autotune helped it become a global phenomenon, topping the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1999. The song made Cher the oldest female artist to have a #1 hit at the time, and proved she could dominate the charts in any decade. Brenda Lee. Brenda Lee made history in December 2023 when her holiday classic Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree finally hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, a staggering 63 years after her previous chart topper, I Want to Be Wanted in 1960. This broke the record for the longest gap between #1 hits in history. While Brenda was a dominant force in the early 60s, her presence on the charts faded throughout the decades. But Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree had a lasting legacy as an all-time Christmas classic. Originally released in 1958, the song was initially a moderate success, but gained traction over the years. However, it wasn't until December 2023 that the song finally reached #1, making Brenda Lee the oldest female artist to top the Hot 100. Which artists with the longest gap between #1 hits did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.